What if I told you that your greatest calling, that your greatest ministry is not out there in the world? It's not in your jobs, it's not in the business that you're building, it's not even in your community, but it's actually right here in your own homes. Now imagine this. You're hitting your deadlines, getting the early promotions, getting the paycheck, getting the applause from your audience. But when you come home, your kids barely even know you, and your wives feel like they've been raising the kids all alone. We say that our families are important to us, but when we look at our schedules, does that reflect that? I heard people say that if you want to know what's important for someone, look at their schedules, look at their bank accounts. And I know for us who love our family, we don't intentionally try to put our work first. But it's so easy to prioritize our work first, because think about it, when it comes to our work, when it comes to our businesses, when it comes to our ministry, it's so easy to quantify how we're doing. It's so easy to measure how we're doing by the paychecks, by the reviews, by the applauses, by the comments, the feedback that we get from people. And when you come home, especially when you have small kids, it's very difficult to quantify. There's no key performance indicator how you're doing as a dad. Especially when you have small kids, especially babies and toddlers, they're not able to say if you're doing a good job. They're not able to say how much they appreciate you. So it's very difficult and so easy to get that dopamine hit, that dopamine high from the people outside of our own home. I think as dads, we want to do our best. We want to provide for our family. And I think that's why we're doing all this research. We're thinking about new ideas, new business opportunities. We want to be the best that we can be for our kids. But it's so easy to default to work first. It's easy to say that our family's first through our words, but does that really match our schedules? So friends, I've been there. I'm going through it, balancing work, trying to be present, trying to be intentional with my time, while at the same time doing my best in the career that God has given me. It's not easy, it's messy, and if I can be honest with you, I dropped the ball many times. But it's not about how many times you drop the ball, but it's about you getting back up. One of my counselors, he told me that parenting is like learning how to ride a bike. When you first learn how to ride a bike, you get wobbly, you don't know how to pedal correctly, and you would fall many times. Just because you fell, you get back up again. You start pedaling, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. And parenting is like that. The more we get back up and not give up, we make the adjustments, we get better and better. But there will be times when we will drop the ball. There will be times when we fall off that bike. But the key is not about how many times we've fallen, but how many times we've gotten up and learned from those lessons. Just this week, I was at my son's scrimmage, and it's one of those nights where he had an off night. We had a really good conversation about it, about perseverance, about not giving up. I tried to record every time he had the ball so that I wouldn't miss those moments, but he missed a lot of his easy layups. He wasn't able to perform his moves that he would normally do. And at the end of the game, I was just like waiting to get home because it was late. We have two other kids and we wanted to get them ready for bed so that they can go to school the following day without being cranky. And I wasn't paying attention anymore. There was like 10 seconds left in the game, and I was on my phone. I think I was texting my wife, trying to figure out the dinner plans and things like that. And the crowd just erupted, and people were giving high fives and things like that. Right when we got in the car, he told me, "Dad, did you see that winning shot? That winning layup that I did?" And I said, "Which one?" Because they played many rounds of games during that time. And I was going through my phone, trying to justify. I was hoping that I did record it. And he said, "No, Dad, I was in the white jersey. You didn't get it." And he was like so sad. He was very sad in the car, and he said, "It doesn't matter. You didn't get it." And even now, like as I'm recording this, that cuts really deep because his friends were there. They were high-fiving him. They were giving him, everyone was cheering. The rest of the crowd was cheering, but everyone was in that moment, but I was not there. The most important person in that game, in that scrimmage, was me. And that most important person for my son was not there. When we default to work first priorities, we will miss the most important moments that really matter most to us, that really matter most for our kids, for our wives. Those little windows of opportunities where we can be in their world, celebrate with them, have that discussion to connect with them. And the cost of neglecting that ministry, that moment, is far more expensive than a missed business opportunity, than a missed promotion, than a missed dinner at work. Now, friends, here's the good news. You and I don't have to be a perfect parent. Just like the bicycle story that I shared with you. It's not about getting it right all the time, but it's about being present. It's about being intentional. It's about making the adjustments, and it's about not giving up as a dad, as a husband. You and I don't have to be perfect or have all the answers to disciple our kids. It's not about doing more, but it's actually being intentional with the time that we already have and leading our family in the everyday moments in life. Now, here's the thing. Those moments won't wait for me and you. The time to start discipling our kids begins now. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 4 practical steps that you and I can take to start discipling our kids, even though life may feel so hectic, even though life may feel so chaotic. Alright, so step number 1 is probably not what you're thinking about, but step number 1 is to meet them where they are. Here's what I'm realizing. Discipleship doesn't start with a Bible study. It doesn't start with a sermon, but it begins with meeting them where they're at. It's about relationship. Now, if you look at scriptures, if you look at Jesus, before he invited people to become his disciples, he met them where they were at. He had a relationship with them. He became their friends. For those disciples that were being misunderstood, he was a friend to them, and then Jesus invited them to where they needed to be. And it's the same thing with our kids. Discipleship doesn't have to be complex, but it's doing life in the everyday moment. For some of them, it's playing basketball. For some of them, it's playing Nintendo. For some of them, it's skateboarding or going for a walk. You know, especially if you have young kids, one of the things that I've learned over time is that younger kids, they don't have the ability to say that I had a tough time at school, but instead they would say, Mom, Dad, can you play with me? That's a way for them to connect, to de-stress the stuff that they went through in school. And from experience with my kids, where I just stay present with them, no agenda, play basketball with them, or even play pretend with my kids, they start to open up. Now, it might not be the level of details that you want, but when we meet them where they're at, what they're interested in, what they're comfortable with, the guard starts to come down, and they're able to start sharing some of the things that they went through at school, and that opens up an opportunity for us to share with them, to disciple them how they could have handled that situation better, or even introduce a Bible verse, or even introduce how we had a similar experience and how our faith has helped us in those moments, or how we had our own doubts. So where are your kids feel most comfortable, and how can you intentionally step in to their world this week? Okay, step number 2 is to schedule your priorities. Stop prioritizing your schedule, but schedule your priorities. Block off those times that are most important to you. If discipleship is about doing life with your kids, then it's something that we cannot leave to chance. So for me, how I do that is that I do my best to get in the office as soon as I can. My kids get home from school mid-afternoon, so I try to finish all my work between 4 and 4:30. My company is global, so we have evenings meetings from time to time, but I scheduled a block from like 4:30 to about 6, and I make sure that no one from my company schedules meeting around that. I told them that I will take late night calls at 10 p.m. or even at 11 p.m., but those moments between 4:30 to 7 o'clock, those are sacred moments for me, because that's the time where I can play basketball with my kids. That's the time where we can go around for a walk, and that's the time where we can have dinner together. So you want to protect your schedule. You want to protect your priorities by scheduling it, by blocking it off in your calendar. Now, I know for some of you are saying those times don't work for me. I'm just giving you an example. You need to find that special moments with your kids. For some of you, maybe it's a Saturday morning where you can block off that time where you can take your daughter or your son for a breakfast. That's something that I do with my kids. I have 3, so I have to be creative on how I can connect with them one-on-one and also as a family. Being present and intentional isn't about having more time. It's about making the time that you have count. So my question to you is, what's one area of your schedule where you can create a protected time for your family this week. So why don't you go ahead, open up your Google Calendar, your Outlook, whatever calendar app that you have, and block that time off. And I know sometimes there's going to be emergency at work where that's not going to work, but unless you actually schedule your priorities, it's easy to just drift through life and prioritize other people's priorities instead of us prioritizing what matters most to us. Okay, step number 3 is show and tell. Our kids don't just need to hear about our faith, they need to see it in action. They're watching how we handle our stress, how we treat others, and how we prioritize our time. Discipleship is not just about teaching, but it's actually about modeling. It's about showing them what it looks like to live a life of faith and then inviting them into that journey. Because at the end of the day, our actions speak louder than our words. They will hear what we say, but they will be inspired by what we model. And those actions will shape the legacy that we leave in their heart. So I like to do my devotion in the morning. Usually I'm the first one up. And sometimes our girls or even our son will get up early to probably get water and then go back to bed or use the bathroom, and they will see me in the living room with my Bible praying. And that's something that over the years they'll talk about just randomly. How, Dad, you read your Bible at this time, and they would ask like, why do you do that? And that's an opportunity for me to share with them that for me as a dad, because I know I dropped the ball so many times, that it increases my chances to be a better dad, to be a better husband to them when I prioritize my faith in Jesus, by reading His Word, by praying, by journaling. I let them see that. I also talk about the stresses that we go through. My wife and I were pretty open with the challenges that we're going through in our parenting, in our family, in our finances. And we talk about how we trust in God. And again, a lot of times we don't see that right now, how it's impacting them, but we're not just telling them about our faith, but we're showing them through the everyday moments of our life. Our kids will listen to what we say, but at the end of the day, they'll be inspired. They will remember what we model, what they see in action. So what's one way you can model your faith for your kids this week? All right, the last step that I want us to think about on how we can disciple our kids is think long term, but at the same time be present and focus on the play. Discipleship is a long game. You won't see the results overnight, and that's okay. The goal isn't to score a touchdown every day, it's to keep moving the ball forward one play at a time. My friend shared this illustration with me a few years ago. You know, a lot of times we try to focus on the touchdowns. We try to focus on the instant gratification. We want to see the results right away. But he shared with me this illustration when it comes to a football game. He shared with me that the goal is not to throw a Hail Mary or to throw those crazy passes. A lot of times when we actually do that, we ended up turning over the ball. And we do that in our own life because we're trying to shortcut the growth. You know, we want to see the results right away, and we get frustrated with our kids. We bring unnecessary frustration onto ourselves and even onto our kids because we're not seeing the results right away. But the key is not getting that touchdown passes, but the key is to be present and to get those first downs. Because think about it, just like in football, when you focus on getting your first downs, eventually you will get from one end zone to the next and you'll hit that touchdown. Discipleship is the same thing. It's a long game. The scriptures, the Bible readings, the Sunday schools, the daily moments, playing hoops with them, playing Nintendo with them, meeting them where they're at. It might seem like nothing's happening. To be honest with you, it was like that in my own life. I didn't grow up as a Christian, and my dad and I, we didn't have a good relationship because of things that happened to us. My dad, he became a Christian after my mom passed away when I was 8. So he was growing in his faith in God. I blamed him for everything. I was a dumb kid. I didn't know what I was talking about. And as I was growing up, my dad was going to this church. He would invite us to go to church, but he never forced us to go to church. And when I was 18 years old, I was taking a break from my calculus class, and the Holy Spirit just met me in my living room, and that's when I started having that relationship with God. Over the years, when I fought with him, he didn't give up on me. He just kept praying for me. He asked his sister, who's also a Christian, to keep praying for me. He was focused on the play. He was focused on the first downs, and he was having that long-term perspective. For many years, it seemed like his prayer wasn't going anywhere, and there was a point when he actually had to kick me out of the house. But his prayers never returned void, and because he focused on the play, he focused on the relationship, he focused on meeting me where I was at, driving me to practices, taking me to get a haircut, building that relationship. Eventually, I gave my life to Jesus. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't my dad focusing on the play, embracing the mess, trying his best to disciple me, even when life felt chaotic. And some of you today, you might be in that place. We may not see the feedback right away. It's about grinding out those first downs, those small, consistent efforts that move you closer to the goal. Over time, those plays add up to a legacy of faith and connection that you're hoping for, that you're praying for. Friends, the most important ministry, the most important calling that you have is not out there in the world, it's not out there in the community, but it's actually right here in our own homes. Now here's the thing, the beauty is that it's not about doing more, it's about being intentional with the time that we already have. It's not about coming up with a new system. It's not about being the Bible expert, but it's about relationship. It's about embracing the mess. It's about just showing up, being intentional. It's about apologizing when we make mistakes. It's about the first downs. It's about being present and meeting them where they're at. In his letter to Timothy, Paul said that if you desire to be an overseer, to be a leader in the church, you need to first lead your own marriage. You need to first lead your home. And I believe that when we have our priorities in order, it brings glory to God, it honors God, it inspires other people. I know sometimes it can feel like you don't have enough time, but if you're faithful in the little, God can multiply the time that you already have to make an impact in your homes, to make an impact in the lives of your kids, and not only that, but to make an impact in the people that you are called to serve in your business place, in your church, in your ministry, in your community. So friends, what is that one action that you need to take today? Maybe for you, it's actually just meeting them where they're at. Not trying to slam a Bible in their heads, not trying to slam scriptures down their throat, but it's probably playing with them. Maybe riding a bike, maybe playing pretend with your daughters. Maybe for some of you, it's prioritizing your schedule. It's you opening up your Google Calendar and blocking that time off. For some of you, it's probably being more open, being more transparent with your kids, how you're doing with your faith. Some of the things that God is doing in your life, or some of the things that you're struggling with. Whatever that one step that you need to take this week, would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below or send me a private message. I want to celebrate with you. I want to pray with you. Friends, thank you so much for spending time with me. Again, the most important ministry begins right here in your own homes. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about showing up. It's not doing more. It's being faithful and being intentional with the time that you already have in those everyday moments that you have with your family. You got this. I'll see you next time.